Some of the biggest songs in rock, metal, alternative, etc. throughout the years have been sometimes hated by their own creators. Despite their disdain for their own creation, the songs were still successful, and that just made the resentment grow. This video is going to take a look at 10 artists who hated their own songs. Artists spend months to years perfecting a song, working every facet to the point of exhaustion, and presenting it to the masses. And as time passes, many artists in those bands end up regretting everything about it. There are many reasons why a musician can hate their own music, so here's a look at some examples. This is not a top 10, no ranking, just a list of artists who hate their own songs. Also, one band per song per entry, because there are a few artists who despise more than one of their own creations. No further explanations needed, you know how these lists work. Let's get to it. Fun fact, not only do the Gallagher brothers hate each other, but they also are at constant odds over their past music. Let's face it, Wonderwall is their most well-known song over the years and is pop culture at this point, so it probably hurts Liam Gallagher more that Wonderwall is what many music lovers know Oasis for. All I have to do on this one is show a quote from Liam a few years back.
Every time I have to sing it, I want to gag. You go to America and they're like, "Are you Mr. Wonderwall? You want to chun someone?"
I'll gladly say that Oasis have better songs than this, but if Liam already doesn't like having to play a song he's played a million times before, in front of an audience he says he wants to punch whenever someone asks him about it, yeah, it's clear he hates his own song. I admit this song may not be the classic it's heralded to be from the 90s, but the music in the song is still well written and it's virtually harmless overall. Then again, Liam has a lot of anger for it because he can't stand how this is the song America loves. And anger towards most of his past music. And his brother. Especially his brother. I honestly don't think we'll ever get a full Oasis tour or full album from the brothers working together, no matter how many times they say it's possible. But I do think they could settle enough differences to do a one-time performance live as a festival headliner or something. And when they get to Wonderwall, Liam just glares at his brother and the audience just starts freaking out, and then the brothers start fighting on stage and giving each other noogies and wet willies like whiny brat brothers do. I just see that happening because that's who those two are. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Looking at the amazing career of the Beastie Boys, you find so many hidden gems and killer tracks along with big moments that they had. So it really is weird to think that the song that put them on the map is meant as a shot towards frat boy and rich kid behavior, but instead is seen as a party anthem that said frat boys and drunk teenage losers all sing along with. Make no mistake, in the band's greatest hits album, The Sound of Science, they put in the liner notes that their breakout song sucks. To put it more eloquently, Mike D said, "The only thing that upsets me is that we might have reinforced certain values of some people in our audience when our own values were actually totally different." This song really stood out in a great way on the airwaves back in the 80s, but I can see why it would leave you feeling like you missed the mark when everyone took your direct shot at spoiled rich kid behavior and accepted it as that party anthem to have fun with. That's brutal. The entire subtext and meaning behind the message is lost because Chadley and Jaden are too busy drunkenly screaming, "Fight for your right to party." Ugh. Looking back, there are so many more songs that exemplify what Beastie Boys are capable of, and Fight for Your Right just doesn't do that. Even as a joke song, even though it's fun to sing along with, it's understandable why the band tried to move on from this, in more ways than one. This is the song that put Beastie Boys into the spotlight and hooked an audience from MTV and radio instantly. Everyone who loved Beastie Boys never looked back and said they despised this song, but the group themselves said no one took this song seriously. You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party was not taken serious by the masses. Kind of sucks how that works out, but a lot of good still came out of it because this song got attention. And the music video is very cheesy, but it's still fun to watch. The story of Escape from Ride the Lightning is well known by Metallica diehards. It's a legendary album that features a song that wasn't even intended to be on said album. In the 11th hour during the making of Ride the Lightning, Lars told the rest of the band that the label wanted one more song. There was a bit of panic, so they rushed to write and record while making Escape, that type of song that was written in studio. The intention of the song is meant to be about someone breaking from prison and escaping his environment. The subtext of that is it's not just a physical prison. Not an original idea, but not bad. The song has a good solo also. The problem? The lyrics predate angsty teen nu metal by a good 15 years. Yeah, it's pretty over the top and sticks out in a weird way. The band wouldn't play Escape live for 30 years until Orion Fest when they were playing the album front to back. James Hetfield said getting through that song live was one of his worst nightmares. If you haven't seen the live footage of this performance, it's worth it just to hear Hetfield argue with Lars and then ask the crowd if the band actually has to go through with it. That is some desperation to not play a song. Hetfield almost got to the point of dropping to his knees and begging. I don't even hate Escape, and as Metallica's career went on, many songs would sound similar to the style of Escape, but yeah, it doesn't really hold up to most of Ride the Lightning, and I get the idea of feeling rushed to make something when you weren't expected to, so it could be much worse. Not for James though. Wow, he really never wants to play Escape.
The song that we never wanted to play live ever is now on the set list. No, don't do it. Don't do it, Dan. Is there any other songs left we haven't played, Dan?
This one might be a bit of a surprise for people, but there is a good clarifier on this entry, and Amy Lee explains pretty well why she and original members of Evanescence were not in love with My Immortal. The version we've all known for years and helped catapult Evanescence into the spotlight along with other songs was actually a rushed recording under less than ideal circumstances. Amy Lee told Forbes a few years back,
"I seriously considered not putting it on the album. The version that I hear 99.9% of the time I'm in a grocery store and it comes on is this old demo that I cannot stand. It's not even a real piano, and it's me singing late at night at my dad's work where they had a studio and he let us go in there and record, and I was in high school."
Evanescence would later put out an updated version of My Immortal on synthesis with strings, which was much more to her liking, and I do get why she'd be annoyed at having a poorly tracked recording and not at full performance being the final cut on a high-selling album. Think about going for over 10 years and every time you hear the song, it only reminds you of how it should have been done better, and you know the song wasn't at your best. The regret in something like that is understandable. Going longer than 10 years of hearing one of your most well-known songs everywhere, and it's just a reminder that they didn't want it on the record in the first place. Yeah, I get the anger. It's a good ending though. She was able to make a recording up to her standards years later. Also, grocery stores are playing My Immortal? What kind of sad, miserable shopping experience is that? Is grocery core a thing? I feel like that's a description of some bands who get played on overheads, like Maroon 5 and Train. Kurt Cobain had a complicated relationship with Nirvana's culture-changing rock song. Smells Like Teen Spirit defined a new generation and marked the transition from one style in rock to another. Many bands in the 90s were inspired and discovered because the song got the right attention. That being said, Kurt Cobain wasn't exactly thrilled with how the song was used after that. First, Kurt Cobain told Rolling Stone that people only liked the song so much because MTV and radio pounded it into everyone's brain through repetition. Second, Smells Like Teen Spirit was being used as a banner anthem and used as a marketing tool in advertisements and other media, which is definitely not what Cobain wanted his music to be twisted into. It got to the point that Cobain said he could barely get through playing it live, making him want to throw down his guitar and walk off stage every time he had to perform the song. Cobain also felt that many other Nirvana tracks were better than Smells Like Teen Spirit across the board, but he felt stuck having to play the same song as a big highlight. One of the biggest songs of the generation was something that one of its creators grew to loathe. Yeah, that sounds pretty poetic for the grunge era, actually. If Kurt Cobain were still with us today, I wonder what he would think about the song now. A few years after the song got big, he couldn't stand it. I wonder if he would feel the same way decades after. It also really proves to show that maybe if he was still around, he would have even more music to push a track like Smells Like Teen Spirit further down the line and move on from. Kinda sucks to think about how much music we missed out on if he would have still been around today. No joke here, just thinking about that. Sorry for depressing everyone. Speaking of the 90s, I talked about Shiny Happy People in my 10 Bad Songs by Good Bands list earlier this year, and this really is a proper example of a band hating their own song. Michael Stipe does not hold back his feelings for it, and REM went on for years after making the song, refusing to acknowledge it exists. Stipe referred to Shiny Happy People as a fruity pop song written for children. Stipe would also say in interviews over the years that while the band isn't completely embarrassed by it, REM also didn't think it would be a hit when they recorded it. REM was wrong. Remember Grocery Core? Yeah, this song fits that bill, and I think REM would agree. It's a glorified sitcom soundtrack, and I'm still kind of shocked why the band went through putting it on out of time in the first place. I mean, the band didn't perform it poorly, that's not the case at all, but it's just so out of place for the group. Kate Pearson sounds good also, but that doesn't make the song less cheesy. As the years went on before REM called it a day, the band really did their best to shy away from the track and play just about anything else live. They didn't want to associate with it, which is crazy to think about just how much this song was played everywhere for most of the 90s. For what it's worth, the song is not the worst thing ever, and it was originally going to be the theme song for the show Friends, so it would have been played way more if that would have happened. Probably for the best in the eyes of REM, considering how much they don't want this song to be what the band is remembered for. Song is cheesy and bland and repetitive and boring. Just like the TV show Friends. Yeah, you heard what I said! Queen's legacy is interesting because every member of Queen was responsible at one point or another for writing one of the big hits. It's also interesting not every band member loved every Queen song. Don't Stop Me Now is an example of causing conflicting opinions from one of its creators. Brian May was against the song from the very beginning. He said it has a great vibe and is a good rock track, but he also said that Freddie's lyrics promoted a hedonistic lifestyle and set the wrong message. May said years later, after Freddie's passing, the song is even harder to listen to now. To think of it that way. Freddie Mercury was a legend and Don't Stop Me Now is a classic, but it is curious how May saw this song as dangerous with what it's promoting. As far as hedonistic songs about true indulgence go, there is much worse than Don't Stop Me Now, but I can at least understand May's point of view on the song. On the other side of the coin, Queen would make other tracks with controversial lyrics, so it's weird to think Don't Stop Me Now would be the track that May had qualms with. I love Don't Stop Me Now, but I have extreme bias with Queen being one of my favorite bands ever. I can't really argue anything on May's point either on how he felt towards the meaning and message of the song, and how it may have reflected Freddie at the time. In my view though, looking at the lyrics of the song, it's much more harmless than a lot of current music in different genres today. I'd much rather let kids listen to Don't Stop Me Now than anything by Nicki Minaj or Attila. Wow, that's a collaboration I hope never happens. Nicki Minaj and Attila. Ugh. You know what Thom Yorke used to call one of Radiohead's biggest songs ever and one of the most well-known alternative songs on the 90s? Crap. That's right, Thom Yorke thinks creep equals crap. Looking back at the full Radiohead discography and the amazing direction and how wildly creative the band would become, it is at least easy to see how Creep stands out a bit and doesn't have as much in the meaning as Radiohead's other works. Calling it crap might be a bit rough in my opinion, but yeah, most of the band can't stand to play it. Radiohead went 7 years without playing the song live from 2009 to 2016 when they finally played it live again in their tour promoting A Moon-Shaped Pool. Even then, Yorke said it was a chore to get through. It got to the point where fans were chanting for the song at a concert in Montreal. Yorke took to the microphone and told the crowd to F off because they were tired of playing it. Yorke said it was frustrating being judged on a song that Radiohead was desperate to move on from. And yeah, looking at their stuff after the mid-90s, I can understand why the band thinks that's bad. I personally do not think Creep equals crap, and if you feel Creep is the song that you want to move away from as a band artistically and it doesn't reflect your motives, that's at least understandable. All I can say though is Creep is not a song worth regretting, and if you do regret it, then you have a pretty high bar for quality. Think about it. Some bands hate their early works or their big song that made them famous for good reason. You could do much worse than Creep. Like the next song on this list. I get people are deathly loyal to nostalgia, but come on, really? This is the song music fans want representing their past? If you do, keep in mind that most of the band that created Cherry Pie are legit embarrassed by it at this point. Warrant didn't even really want to write this song to begin with. It was hastily written on a pizza box in 30 minutes or less, and Janie Lane said many years ago that the label executives called him up wanting a rock anthem. The label wanted the next Love in an Elevator, so Warrant gave them Cherry Pie. Oh man. At one point, Lane talked about Cherry Pie long after the song became a big hit with VH1, saying,
I hate that song. I had no intention of writing that song. I could shoot myself in the
head for writing that song.
Many years after that, before his passing, Lane would say he was just going through a rough time during that interview, and he didn't flat out resent the song that much, and was glad that Warrant still gets radio play years later, but he also admitted he didn't like being known as the Cherry Pie Guy. That's his legacy, Cherry Pie. I was never a big fan of Warrant's, but even I could say that they were capable of more than, that. It's great that Lane clarified before he passed that he didn't flat out hate the song as much as he originally stated in that old VH1 interview, but yeah, I can see the issue with being called the Cherry Pie Guy. Yikes. Also, if you're looking for more info on the song, you can check out Crash Thompson's video on hit rock songs from the 90s. Keep in mind, he rips the song to shreds. Here's a clip of him discussing the song in the video. Before we get to the last entry, please hit the like button if you have been enjoying this video so far. It helps a ton to get the video pushed in the YouTube search algorithm and proves that this video is something people actually engage with. Thank you. Alright, time for the big one. Stairway to Heaven isn't so much hated by all of Led Zeppelin, but it's hated by specific members, and wow, do some members of Led Zeppelin hate Stairway to Heaven. Kind of surprising, as it truly is one of the highest regarded and most well-known songs in history. Robert Plant not only doesn't like the song, but also can't relate to it. In an interview with New York Times in the late 80s, Plant said, "I'd break out in hives if I had to sing that song in every show. I wrote those lyrics and found that song to be some importance and consequence in 1971, but 17 years later, I don't know, it's just not for me." This song is also one of the reasons why reunion shows didn't really happen back in the day due to the pressure of playing Stairway to Heaven, or That Wedding Song as Plant referred to it, only agreeing to playing it once at a one-off reunion show at O2 in London. Plant would praise the guitar work from Jimmy Page and does think it's a good song, but Plant and other former members of Led Zeppelin had moved on from Stairway to Heaven to the point of trying desperately to put something out to replace its fame. Let's be honest, fans loved the song too much to let it go. It really is the essential classic rock track that even non-rock fans are familiar with, and Robert Plant wants nothing to do with it. I get moving on and growing from a song and what you wrote decades ago doesn't reflect who you are now. But when you make a song this good and you know it inspired many bands of the future and you know all your fans love it, then the song must be really hard to ignore. You hear Led Zeppelin, you think Stairway to Heaven. It's instant association. Of all the songs an artist or band can hate made by themselves, sometimes that song is the one people love the most. Let's be honest, Stairway to Heaven is a beloved classic. Too bad Robert Plant doesn't feel the same way. And that was a look at 10 artists who hate their own songs. Know of another song that is hated by their creators? Leave a comment and let people know. Big thanks to my patrons and a special thanks to Brandon Barenfeld, Chris Doman, and Dom Smith. You can have a say in upcoming videos and get perks by supporting Rock through Patreon. Just $2 a month goes a long way to help the channel. Please check out the link in the vidinfo card and video description for more info. Please subscribe to get notified on upcoming videos. You can check out my concert photography on Instagram, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook and Twitter.